Hello, how's it going? My name is Dashiell Leeds. I'm the Conservation Coordinator for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. Thanks so much for joining me with a few minutes of your virtual time. I'd just like to share a few 2024 conservation advocacy highlights and projects that I'm excited about with you. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize a tireless and tenacious environmental warrior among us. She is our Wildlife Committee Chair and an environmental advocate for the Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance, who has protected birds and riparian corridors for decades. Even though we're not here in person at the moment, I'd like us all to give a virtual round of applause in our heads for Shani Kleinhaus. You've been an amazing collaborator and advocate. It's been an honor to work alongside you, and thank you for all of your efforts on many of the projects, if not all of them, that I'm about to talk about tonight. So, as you can see here, we are looking at the Palo Alto Airport. It is surrounded on all sides by dedicated parkland, and as you can see here, it also is surrounded by wetlands. Wetlands are a really valuable habitat and ecosystem. They're essential for the biodiversity in our region. This is actually one of the most populous birding hotspots in the nation. I believe over 280 species of birds have been sighted at this location. But there are also ecosystem services that wetlands provide to us, greenhouse gas sequestration, as well as a natural barrier to sea level rise. Palo Alto has to update its long-range facilities and sustainability plan for the airport. As part of this plan update, alternatives were considered that would have expanded the footprint and operations of the airport. However, because of just how the site is situated, you can't expand the footprint of the airport at all without, one, taking away dedicated parkland, and two, encroaching into some form of parkland or wetlands. So we opposed any expansion of the airport footprint or operations very strongly due to the nature of the impacts that it would have on the environment and the removal of parkland from nature and from Palo Alto residents. Additionally, there are concerns with air pollution from the airport as well. A lot of the flights from the airport are training flights, so you have a lot of takeoffs and landings, so it can disturb bird populations there. And the airport also uses leaded fuel. Some of the aircraft that use the airport use leaded fuel. So this is not only a air pollution and noise pollution impact for Palo Alto residents, but also for residents of Menlo Park in East Palo Alto, who attended public meetings and talked about the impact of these aircraft on their lives and their well-being. Here is a snapshot from the top of the joint letter that we co-authored with the Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance. As you can see, this was a really broad campaign that was joined by a lot of different environmental and environmental justice and climate organizations. I'd like to give a couple shout outs here, of course, to Shani from the Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance, but also to Avro Shah from the Palo Alto Student Climate Coalition. He was a great organizer on this. He brought in a lot of the groups that you see here on this letter, and he also was instrumental in getting the petition spread out, which received, I believe, over 1,750 signatures. I'd like to give a few other shout-outs to the various groups here. Many of you were present at the Guardians of Nature, so thank you so much. Citizens Committee to Complete the Refuge, Green Foothills, Actera, Climate Resilient Communities, Youth United for Community Action, and Environmental Volunteers. Thank you so much for your collaboration on this project. It was really great to support the non-expansion alternative with you all. The September study session was really well attended. There were over 70 public comments delivered, and ultimately the Palo Alto City Council directed their staff not to expand the footprint of the airport at all. We will be watching this project just to make sure that within the footprint that there still is no expansion of the actual operational capacity of the airport. Again, like I said, having more aircraft, even within the existing footprint, can still lead to additional impacts on community members and the environment. Huge shout out to Mayor Stone and the Palo Alto City Council, further strong direction to staff. We hope that direction is further strengthened as this process continues to ensure no expansion of any operational capacity. Let's move on to the next project here, or actually a series of projects on this slide. What you're looking at is a diagram courtesy of MidPen that shows the Highway 17 Wildlife and Trail Crossings project. We were proud to support the Northern Overcrossing Alternative. Basically, what this project contains is a human overcrossing and wildlife undercrossing. And there were two alternatives, a southern overcrossing and northern overcrossing. The southern overcrossing would have been a little bit closer to the wildlife entrance, and wildlife are really good at avoiding us humans, so it was really prudent, I think, to select the northern overcrossing alternative, which they did, which just makes sure that we don't accidentally impede the mobility of wildlife with our presence alone. And this project is very necessary. Highway 17 is a roadkill hotspot. It impedes wildlife mobility for species such as mountain lions, which really need that mobility to maintain their genetic diversity. I personally grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and mountain lions were part of the mythos of the mountains that I grew up in. And I was fortunate to see a mountain lion once, just for a brief second before it just completely vanished. They are so good at avoiding us, it is amazing. I also grew up around California newts, and that segues into the next project that I'm excited about. As you can see here on the right side of the screen, you have Alma Bridge Road and Lexington Reservoir. This is actually another devastating wildlife roadkill hotspot, particularly for newts who try to go into the reservoir. As for example, a 2021 study found that of the 14,000 California newts that attempted to cross the road during the 2020 to 2021 rainy season, almost 40% of those newts were killed by vehicle collisions. So the need for this passage is urgent. Fortunately, in 2023, the Mid-Penn Board advanced two viable alternatives, and the design team is now working on those now. So even though this isn't a 2024 advocacy thing, we were really proud to have supported this project in the past, and we're looking forward to seeing the outcome of the design team here. Cool. So here we are looking at a photograph of the Pioneer Oak. This was Stanford University's oldest living monument, an oak tree of more than 2 centuries old. Unfortunately, it collapsed in 2008, but I hear that the trunk of the tree has sprouted new growth, which is exciting and symbolically important as well. The reason why I bring this up is because we supported Santa Clara County to take action to protect old oak trees like this. I'm really happy to see that Santa Clara County is now updating their tree protection and removal ordinance to include the preservation of old oak trees over 150 years old countywide. We're really excited to see these amendments move forward and happy to support them when they come back to the board. So yeah, thank you to Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, particularly to Supervisor Joe Simidian for pushing for this direction. Next up, I'd like to talk a little bit about bird safe design and dark sky ordinances. Last year at the Guardians of Nature, my presentation was entirely focused on this, so I'll just go over some of these things in broad strokes. First, light pollution. As you can see on the top right, our light pollution is visible from space. And all biological beings, we have evolved over millions of years under natural cycles of day and night. Our circadian rhythms and many of our biological functions are tied to natural light cues. And when we disrupt that by exposing ourselves to artificial light at night, it can cause a lot of negative impacts. So for example, in humans, it can disrupt our hormone production, and it also is correlated with an increased risk of cancers. And conversely, having completely dark sleep time for humans increases our survival rate of cancers. So light can be really impactful for us and for wildlife. Artificial light at night can disrupt bird migration. It can affect all sorts of behaviors in species, such as foraging. There are certain species of bats who won't even move from tree to tree if there's just a little bit of light present. It can affect the direction that amphibians move. It affects insect populations. It really affects the entire biosphere. And of course, if we're trying to go to sleep and there's bright light trespassing into our home, it's just a nuisance as well. So we're really excited to see that jurisdictions are moving forward with dark sky ordinances. We have advocated and encouraged the cities of Palo Alto, Los Altos, as well as the county of Santa Clara who are now all moving forward with these ordinances. Again, thank you again to Shani for your expertise on this topic. We're really excited to see these move forward. Additionally, all of these jurisdictions are also considering and moving forward with bird safe design ordinances. Let's talk a little bit about bird safe design. More than a billion birds in the United States die every year from collisions with buildings. Birds will see habitat reflected in glass or visible through glass, and they don't know that glass exists. They can't perceive that it's there, so they just smash right into it. Artificial light also can correlate with bird collisions as well, drawing birds to areas where they then collide with buildings, increasing the risk of bird strikes. So fortunately, there are some pretty straightforward techniques that can be adopted in construction to ensure that birds do not collide with buildings as often. Having visual cues on windows, little dots called fritting, can be really important, and just making sure that the bird can see that a window is there and that they won't collide with it. And in the construction phase of a project, developers can avoid hazardous architectural features such as parallel panes of glass where birds can see habitat through the glass, avoiding glass with high reflectivity, and avoiding freestanding glass corners where, again, birds can see habitat through glass. There are a lot of really straightforward techniques that can be implemented, and these will be contained in the bird safe design and dark sky ordinances. Just going back to dark sky for a second here, one thing I do want to impart is the negative impact that blue light has. Blue hued light has really devastating effects on our biology, and it has been proven through science that the sort of warmer, redder hue of light really reduces these impacts. So not only is it important to angle lights down and shield the lighting fixtures so that we avoid light trespass, and of course avoiding uplighting, but it's also important to make sure that we have redder color temperature lights. That's going to be all for my presentation. Thank you so much to everyone for attending in person, and thank you to everyone who's listened to my virtual talk. We'll see you next year.